Hello again everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking another outing in the aeroplane heaven, Havilland DHC-1 Chipmunk. It's been quite some time since we flew the aircraft previously. As I pointed out at the time, the Chipmunk's certainly one of my favourites in the real world, and the aeroplane heaven rendition of the aircraft is pretty nice as well. One point that is worth noting, the particular version of the Chipmunk that we flew here today was slightly outdated. So one or two of the bugs that we encountered along the way have now subsequently been fixed up by Aeroplane Heaven. We're going to be taking our Chippy on a leisurely flight around rural Oxfordshire. We'll be departing out of Pilot Plus's Wickham Air Park or Booker Aerodrome, making our way over the countryside towards the city of Oxford. We'll do a quick lap around the city and then we'll make a landing at Pilot Plus's Kidlington airport. As usual, we'll be carrying out a full flight, trying to follow real world procedures as closely as we can, and I'll talk you through everything as we go. Once again, a pretty leisurely flight for you here today, just enjoying the sim, the Chipmunk and the surrounding scenery. I do hope you enjoy the flight as well though. If you do, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. So welcome once again to the cockpit of the Aeroplane Heaven de Havilland Chipmunk. We're back on the ground at Pilot Plus's Booker Aerodrome, and as I say, we're going to be making a solo flight today over towards Oxford Kidlington. Just coming up on around 9 AM local time. We've just pulled the aircraft out of the hangar. We've carried out our checks down the back, we carried out the walk around as well, so running through the front cockpit checks, the flight controls. Our full and free ground flight switch is set to ground, and as you can see we've got our accumulator trolley there ready to go. Emergency lamp switch is off, taxi lights are off, nav lights can go on. Cockpit lamps are off and the identification light switch is off. Elevator trim, we have 2 units nose down. Brake lever is full and free set on. Throttle is full and free and we'll just crack that for the start. Mixture can go to fully rich. Throttle friction has been adjusted. Ignition switches are off. Generator warning light is illuminated. Intercom is on, although not required for the flight. Radio and transponder. We'll just leave the radio on since that's not currently functional, and again we won't require that for the flight today. Magnetic compass coming down to our P8, showing a heading there of around 245, so we'll set that on the directional gyro. And there's 245. Flight instruments, altimeter is set, and the flight instruments are checked. Same for the engine instruments. Fuel cock is selected on. Flap lever, we'll check the operation. So flaps are good, they can come up again. And the carb air control is full and free and set to cold. To start, the prop area is clear, we'll give everyone a shout. Clear prop! Ignition switches can go on. Throttle is set 1/2 inch open. We'll pull the starter. And we do have a good start there. And so then the engine come back to 1100 RPM. Oil pressure looks good. We'll close up the canopy. Pretty loud otherwise. So oil pressure is checked. After start checks. Oil temperature looking for above 15 degrees, coming up through 20 degrees currently. Generator warning light is out. Ignition switches will just test for a dead cut. And looking like we're good there. Carb air will test.
Student Golf Sierra Foxtrot taxi to the pump face east by Alpha.
And again we have a drop. Directional indicator is set. Artificial horizon is checked. Taxi lamp can go on. We'll set the flight ground switch to flight and have our ground engineer remove the accumulator trolley. Radio is set, transponder not installed, and we are all set and ready to go. So the park brake can come off, we'll come fully back on the stick.
Golf River 0PA28 on line 5 with India 1021, 3POB, request taxi local to the west.
Golf River 0 Squawk 3763, taxi Bravo 140G.
3763, Bravo 102, Golf.
So just making our way out towards runway 25 and the holding point just off the left of the engine cowl there, so we'll taxi up towards the holding point, carry out our run-up checks.
Shot, Golf Charlie Echo Echo November inbound.
Golf Echo November, standby.
Just having to weave our way a little bit down the taxiway, track our big help here as well. We can obviously see where we're going a little bit more readily. There's a tiny little bit of wind today, so we'll make sure we get ourselves turned into wind for the run-up. Try and help keep that Gypsy engine a little bit cooler.
Zulu Echo, final 02.
Golf Zulu Echo clear to land runway.
Okay, so here's the run-up area, just pulling off to the right. And runway 24.
Golf Echo November, pass your message.
Golf Echo November, PA28 returning from Headcorn, currently...
and as I say, we'll just
5 miles south of...
get ourselves into wind, a little bit of an upslope, so just having to come up on the power.
Golf Echo November, report passing a beam the power station, crossing, join at 02, squawk 37.
And looking good now there in terms of positioning, so part brake on, we can come off the stick, bringing the throttle back to 1100 RPM. The run-up itself, the part brake is set, coming fully back again on the control column. All temperatures come up nicely now, showing 50 degrees there. And oil pressure, we're looking for between 30 and 40 psi, currently showing nearly 80, so that's a little bit high, but that's probably an aeroplane heaven issue. Coming up to 1800 RPM.
Golf Oscar Tango, descend as required, join left base, and report finally number 2 following traffic late left base.
Well, keep a good lookout for traffic.
So there's 1800, we'll cut each mag in turn, so onto the left mag. About 110, 120 RPM drop there on the left, so actually outside of the real world limits, but good enough for our flight today. Back up to 1800. And same on the right mag. And again about 110 RPM drop, back to both. Just checking the carb heat once again. And same drop there, around 110. Carb heat back to cold, engine temperatures and pressures looking reasonable. Coming all the way back to idle on the power. And looking for the engine to idle around 650 RPM. Which it is, so we'll come back up to 1100.
Charles approach, good afternoon, Golf Mike India, Sarah Juliet.
Now running through the before takeoff checks. Trim. Once again we have 2 divisions nose down there on the elevator. Mixture is set fully rich, throttle friction has been adjusted. Carb air is set cold. Fuel cock is on. And fuel contents, we've still got the bug there, so showing empty there on the left tank. Full fuel load there on the right, we should have a full fuel load in each main tank. Flaps are up, and just visually checking and confirming there the flaps are up. Pitot heat is not installed on the aircraft, same for the transponder. Once again checking our gauges, we'll just check the directional gyro once again versus the P8. Showing around 260 there now on the P8. So just setting that on the directional gyro. And the P8 there is a little bit inaccurate, so we'll just confirm that by hitting the Kia sign there, so showing about 275 there on the directional indicator. A little bit hard to see there with the parallax on the P8. So flight instruments once again are checked, harness is secure, canopy is closed and latched, and again just checking the flight controls. They are full and free. So we're all set and ready to go, part brake can come off, again fully back on the stick. And again just having to come up on the power for the upslope. All clear on the left, we are cleared for the takeoff. There's nothing coming down final. And nothing upwind of us either.
Sierra Juliet with the basic service QNH1021, report passing overhead.
Passing overhead, 1021, switching.
So coming on to runway 24, confirming that against the directional indicator there, and we are showing a good heading, so we've got the correct heading set. So I think we're good, we're ready to go. So power is set, a little bit low there on the RPM, T's and P's looking good. Up in no time at all here in the Chipmunk.
And we'll pitch to climb at around 70 knots. Flaps already up. Just wait till we're through 500 feet before we make our turn onto our first heading. And we're looking for a heading there of 323. Initially out towards the town of Thame. It's going to be a right heading, or a right turn. There's 500 feet, so we'll start the turn now. And we'll climb ourselves up to around 3,500 feet. That's going to keep us clear of the Benson military air traffic zone later on. Looking good now in terms of the speed, getting around 1,000 feet per minute rate of climb out of the aircraft, just coming through 300 degrees on the heading and 2,000 feet in terms of our altitude.
Mike, basic service, Carson Cochrane active and traffic. You might see the Cessna 150 routine from Cleveland to the overhead at 2,000 feet.
And there's 323 on the heading, so going wings level. Another 1,200 feet here in the climb. You may have seen just a moment ago, we've already got the Stokenchurch Tower just off the nose. That's en route for our first waypoint, so looking good for a gross error check there in terms of our heading. And also pointing the aircraft out towards the westerly edge of the Chiltern Hills, so again a good gross error check there. Noting down the time, we came out of Booker around 0901. And it's going to be a 7-minute leg out towards Thame, so overhead the town at around 0908. We can start creeping back on that mixture now. We're through 3,000 feet, but we'll wait until we've got the aircraft levelled off. So it's 3,500. Levelling the aircraft off. We'll start trimming out for that. Letting that airspeed build, we can start coming back as well now on the throttle. We've got about 90 knots there, which is what we want for the cruise. And looking for around 2100 RPM, I find is a pretty decent power setting here in the Aeroplane Heaven Chipmunk to give us our 90 knot cruise speed.
Mike, basic, all the active you've got, right? And it's you might see a Cessna 150 routing clearly towards the overhead at 2,000 feet.
No problem. So there's 2100, looking good there on the altitude. So good there on the heading. Taxi lamp can come off. The aircraft still just wanting to fly a little bit nose down there, so correcting that with some trim. Speed's looking good, just coming up slightly again on the throttle, losing a few RPM there as the speed falls off. So according to the chart, we should be just out to the right of the town of Stokenchurch, which sure enough we are. You can see the town's actually more or less just below us at the moment, so we're slightly out to the left of track. You can see the intersection there between the M40 and the road running out from Princess Risborough. And again, really nice visual landmark. We've also got the Stokenchurch Tower, the telecommunications tower, so we know we're pretty much bang on where we should be right now. That speed just falling off slightly, so coming a little bit higher up on the RPM there. We are just climbing slightly here as well, just to get us back up to 3,500. There's Chinner off to our 1 o'clock position. Again, that's a good little visual reference. And we know it's Chinner. We've got the cement works just out to the east of the town, or at least the old cement works. I believe it's slowly becoming a housing estate these days. In fact, you can see the housing there creeping out onto the old cement works. We'll get a bit of a better view of that in a moment's time, once it passes off the right wing.
Go for Papa, runway 28, clear to land surface, wind 280 degrees.
So nicely trimmed off now for 3,500 feet. Just coming up on 0905, 90 knots. And leaving Stokenchurch behind us. Looks like 3,500 is just going to keep us below this cloud layer, so good for now. We may have to descend back down again, which will put us in the Benson military air traffic zone, as I say. Not an issue, we can always request clearance through the airspace, although for the sake of today's flight we'll be a bit cheeky and just nip through. Technically it's not actually required at any rate. So there's the cement works, as I say, you can see those quite clearly now. And you can see there the housing encroaching onto the former site.
Go for Papa, roger, next report right hand downwind. Report right hand downwind, go for Papa.
From Chinner we've got the road leading out towards Thame. You can see Thame now quite clearly off the right of the nose there. So, doing pretty well here in terms of our tracking. Just out from the north of Tame we've got Hadnam, and then off on the distance off the right wing we've got Aylesbury, which you may well remember from our previous flight, the Chipmunk. Just off the right wing tip there as well we've got Princess Risborough, which again you may remember from our previous flight. We turned overhead that to head out towards RAF Halton.
Golf Charlie Charlie Victor Mike is an RV7 out of RAF Wood Vale destination, Shopton. We're just north of New Brighton this time at 1,400 feet, looking for VFR transit to cut the western corner of the zone, route towards Neston, over.
Golf Charlie Charlie Victor Mike, basic service, QNH 1022, squawk 5052.
Our turning point's bang over the centre of the town, so we'll just wait until we hit that before we make the turn. Got the golf course there off at our 10 o'clock. Just coming up again on the power there, still losing a little bit of speed here. Just coming up off the right wing tip there, you can see the former Tame and Aylesbury airfield. You can see the runway is just passing north to south. It's actually just outside the town of Hadnam. Anyway, we'll turn on to our heading of 266.
Golf Charlie Tango overhead. Golf Charlie Tango, descend on the dead side. Next report, right hand downwind. Descending dead side and the right hand downwind, Golf Charlie Tango.
And there's 260, so just slightly correcting back onto 266. In terms of the time, we did come overhead Tame at 09 and showing 6 minutes to run out towards Oxford. So expecting to arrive overhead the city at 15. I think you could already quite clearly see Oxford there off the nose. So again, good visual gross area check there. We've got the city of Oxford, nice easy feature to spot. And we'll just be coming to the Benson military air traffic zone as I mentioned, so we should see Benson somewhere off the left wing. A little bit tricky to see there with the cloud coverage between us and the airfield, but I think we can just make out the runway there. Off to our 10 o'clock you can see Chalgrove as well, that's out to the north of Benson. Trying to avoid the cloud here, so we're just going to come slightly out to the right. We don't have to worry too much about being accurate on our heading here since we're maintaining a nice visual with the ground and Oxford itself. Yeah, so Chalgrove just coming up off the left wing tip there. And again, we'll maintain 3,500 here. The Benson military air traffic zone goes up to 3,200. Engine temperatures and pressures looking good. Checking the fuel state, but we know that's not going to be accurate. Still looking good though in terms of our fuel for the moment. And just coming out of this band of cloud now. You can see Chalgrove there a little bit more clearly now. It's a 3-runway triangular layout. And then out to the south of that, you might just about be able to make out the runway lights there of Benson, just blinking off in the distance, just below the bank of cloud off our left wing.
Golf Bravo Tango Delta Echo on track to leave at Chester.
Golf Bravo Tango Delta Echo Liverpool, good morning, report at Chester.
So again, coming over Oxford at 1:05, we've got about another minute to run there. Looks like we're just lagging a tiny bit on our timing now, probably another 2 minutes to run here really till we're over the city. And as soon as the M40 motorway, which is just off on our right, as soon as that peels off to the north, we can descend down here, which I think we'll do since we're definitely going to be heading into the cloud at 3,500 looking ahead of us. And you can see the motorway there just off the right wing, indeed peeling off to the north.
Golf below 1600, call Welling Pier, Charlie Bravo.
Golf Yankee Alpha, traffic is Cessna, just departed eastbound with that one inside, just leave the takeoff to the north, crossing 02350 degrees south. November 1 Charlie Delta, continue approach, there's a helicopter crossing.
So just coming up on 2,500 feet, you can see Oxford in all of its splendour, quite a substantial city and obviously pretty famous for its universities. So we'll just do a quick lap along the river, take in some of the more historical parts of the city before we make our way in towards Kidlington. Sports ground and running track just passing off on the right side of the aircraft. We're just passing over the more industrial part of Oxford at the moment, that's just passing down below the aircraft. Definitely the less picturesque part of the city overall.
There's Golf Bravo Papa Alpha Yankee, Squawk 7000 and free call White Water 122.6.
So the river, which runs through the city, more or less passing off the top of the Cowling currently. We'll pick that up on the southerly end and then follow that through south to north. That pretty much actually takes us in towards Kidlington. From Oxford itself, we're looking for heading of 336 over towards Kidlington. And with the wind being pretty light here today, we'll probably just take the northerly runway straight in towards Kidlington. So just coming up on 2,000 feet. Going back up to 2100 RPM to level the aircraft off. And again, actually we'll go for 2150, that seemed to work pretty well last time for our 90 knots cruising speed. You can see the river then just passing off the right wing. As I say, we'll just follow that. Over the suburbs of the city really currently, a lot of housing around. The more historic part of the city out star 1 o'clock. So making our way inbound towards that.
Bravo November Oscar Juliet, you are clear to transit controlled airspace route and direct to Lima Papa Lima, VFR, not above altitude 2,000 feet.
Clear transit Lima full control airspace above altitude 2,000 feet, routing Lima Papa Lima, Oscar Juliet.
Copy the Lima Papa traffic north 2 miles, tracking east, no height information, preliminary.
So just coming up over the historic part of Oxford city centre. And you can see down below us we've got some of the university buildings. Very beautiful they are too. Plenty of churches as well down in the city. We'll come out slightly to the west here and we'll head back in just so we can actually see the city centre a little bit more clearly. We're sort of sat right over the top of it currently.
Hotel Tango, Squawk 3715.
Okay, Golf Hotel Tango, will Squawk 3715.
That reservoir off in the distance, we want to stay well out to the east of that. We've got the RAF Prize Norton airspace just out to the east of us. So just parallel the train line here and then we'll come back in towards the city. And then you can see some of the historical buildings a little bit more clearly. Again, really beautiful city Oxford. I am slightly biased, but nonetheless it's obviously fairly famous and I think rightfully so. You can see some of the university buildings as I say, and you can see some of the recreational grounds there in the middle.
Copy from Lima, traffic at south or west 5 miles, tracking the east is a PA28, altitude 2,500 feet, my frequency.
So just finishing up our orbit here, we'll make our way now in towards Kidlington.
Copy from Lima, traffic southwest 5 miles, tracking east is a PA28, altitude 2,500 feet, my frequency.
Heading we said was 336. We're almost doing that already.
We have a couple of miles to run now to Compton and we'd like to continue with Farnborough Lars.
Golf Whiskey Whiskey Alpha Lima, Roger, Squawk 7000 and free call Farnborough West on 125.250.
And once again, just keeping a good eye on that reservoir. We want to stay out to the east here of the river that's on our left wing, just to keep clear of the Brize Norton airspace.
Golf Whiskey Romeo, traffic right, 2 o'clock, 3 miles, tracking southeast, no height or tide, further traffic 12 o'clock, left to right, 4 miles, no height or tide. Produce traffic information for the next 6 miles due to multiple gliding contacts in the vicinity of Lasham.
That's copy, just go to those primary contacts.
The runway lights for Kidlington just off to 1 o'clock now, you might be able to see those, just out to the right of the engine cowling. So we're on a bit of a right-hand base leg here currently. We'll get our downwind checks out of the way, so brakes are checked and off, undercarriage is down, mixture. We'll come back up to fully rich. Fuel pump we don't have, fuel quantities are sufficient, flight instruments are checked. Take the taxi lamp on once again. Harness is secure, and again we're just going to disregard the car peep for now, just to keep things nice and simple. Nothing coming down final here, and again just staying just outside of the Brize Norton airspace.
White Wolf, this side, West QSY.
Golf Alpha Lima, Roger, 7000, recall White Wolf, bye-bye.
7 recall White Wolf, Golf Alpha Lima.
So we'll just make a nice shallow descent in towards the northerly runway. And we'll hold the flaps for now, quite happy here at 80 knots. Try and keep the speed up a little bit here on the approach. Plenty of runway here for us at Kidlington as well, so we don't need to worry too much about getting the aircraft nice and slow. Just going further back off that power, still showing 4 whites here on the Pappy. We'll take a stage of flap now, just to help bleed off some of this altitude.
White Wolf up to the 2K via overhead Farnborough.
We'll pitch around 70 knots.
Biggin Hill. Currently at Woodley at 1,400 feet on 1022. Request overhead transit and basic service.
Golf November Uniform QNH correct.
Once again all clear on final, and just going to hold that final stage of flaps a little bit longer. We are slowly coming back onto our vertical profile here. Got the A34 passing just off the right wing. Take full flaps now. And again, just pitching the nose down to maintain around 70 knots. Aiming to come back to around 60 knots here as we come over the runway threshold. We'll actually land a little bit long here as well. We've got plenty of distance we need to cover over the runway before we can taxi off. We'll vacate off to the right on the east-west runway. Or what was formerly the east-west runway, I'm not sure whether or not it still actually is. So we'll stay a little bit high on the Pappy, and again, aiming to land a little bit long. Pitch is full fine, undercarriages down, flaps are set, landing clearance not required, the runway is clear.
Yankee Bravo, Juliet 1 is ready.
Yankee Bravo, line up for wait to runway 02 cross, there will be traffic landing on 02.
So landing wait on 02 cross, Yankee Bravo.
So good on the speed, slight crosswind out from the left, looking at the windsock there, but nothing too significant. So just easing back on the stick, holding the Chipmunk off. Let's touch down, not too bad, all the way back on the stick. And coming up on the throttle, we'll keep the speed up here. We need to get off the runway as quick as we can, and as I said, the exit point's all the way down the other end. So vacating off to the right here, we'll take the flaps up. Transponder we don't have, and fuel pump we don't have, so we're good on both of those. We're good in terms of our landing checks, so we'll just make our way back towards the apron. Which again, a little bit of a taxi for us. Ideally you'd want to be taxiing sort of a fast walking pace. We're going a little bit quicker than that, but of course that's just for the sake of the video. Just help keep our taxi time down a little bit here. There's not a whole lot of interest to show during the taxi. A little bit unusual to see a Scandinavian 320 here, or part of the 320 family anyway, can't quite tell from here. Anyway, just slowing up now, coming back to a more reasonable taxi pace. Try and find somewhere nice to park up.
Golf Romeo Zulu behind the landing traffic on the final line from way behind.
Yeah, landing traffic line from way behind, Golf Romeo Zulu.
Let's go and become part of the Airbus team for the day. We'll head off to the left, park outside the Airbus buildings. I'm sure they won't mind. So nice and slow, hanging off to the left.
Zulu Echo from continue taxiing towards the main apron.
And we'll just swing the aircraft around, pointing back out towards the apron. Keeping a good eye on our wingtip clearance here, taking things nice and slow.
Golf Whiskey Alpha Romeo Zulu runway 02 left turn clear for takeoff 340 degrees 10.
And that'll do us. So park brake on. Just coming back again on the throttle to 1100 RPM. And running through the shutdown checks. So we've got 1100 RPM, we'll leave that just a few seconds longer. We'll open up the canopy in the meantime. Ignition switches, once again we'll check for a dead cut. Good there on both the mags. Radio we'll leave on, we can't turn that off. Throttle we can close. And get the taxi lamp off there as well. Cut the mags. And opening the throttle up as we do so. Good shutdown there, so closing the throttle once again. Fuel cock is off, mags are both off. Nav lights can come off. And the ground flight switch we'll leave in the flight position for now. We'll have to start again on the battery later on with no ground accumulator cart here on the ground in Kidlington. Anyway, that's the Chipmunk shutdown and that's our flight complete.
So there you go guys, I do hope you enjoyed another outing in the aeroplane heaven, de Havilland DHC-1 Chipmunk. By no means one of the most detailed aircraft available for the sim, but certainly a very pleasant option for cruising around in, as we did so here today. The Chippy certainly looks very beautiful, it sounds very beautiful. I really enjoyed the flight and I hope that you did as well. If you did enjoy our outing, then please consider giving the video a like. If you want to see more content from the channel, then please consider subscribing as well. If you'd really like to help support the channel, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. And on that note, a huge thank you to my channel members and patrons for all of your support, it is very much appreciated. I do hope that all of you are having a great day wherever you are, take really good care, and I will see you all again soon.